So I think, thanks, Nicole. That's gonna be the first words that they hear when they listen to recordings of me screaming. So that's gonna be good. Anyways, we like to try to respect time as much as possible because it is bedtime for many of us, and we appreciate your time and growing. And we're excited to see so many people saying that they're looking to show up today. We're hoping to kind of feed off of you a little bit and get some ideas for the coming months. Talk about some of our plans, and just make sure you're aware of a lot of the things that are kind of recurring for beginning of the year stuff. There's so many things we can encourage students to do. We want to make sure that we're doing that and taking advantage of ourselves as well. We are posting in chat the Google Docs, so if you don't see it, you can jump on there if you would like to, because it does contain all the fun links and stuff that you might appreciate as well. So without further ado, my name is Jeffrey Weil. I think at this point we all kind of know each other. We've seen each other in things before. Chapter president of Susquehanna Valley. And then on my screen to my right is Jigger, who's serving as our vice president. Christina Fulton as treasurer and Nicole Bond as our secretary. So super excited to do stuff. If you have not done a member bio for us, there's a member bio Google slide. It's kind of fun to every once in a while peruse and see who we got. And I know I've used it as a way to kind of see like, oh, this person's looking for elementary ideas. Let's find some other people listing as elementary. And we can kind of like say, hey, try emailing this person. So it's a really good way to kind of keep people connected as we go through. We do have a Slack that's available. Whether or not you want to be involved in that, it's just a way to, ask a question a little bit quicker, get a faster response, and more to a little bit of a wider community. And we also have a Twitter. We tend to post stuff, close to daily. So if you find stuff that you want us to share as well. C is the one I wanted to take a minute to talk about. There is a huge CSTA Plus campaign, and Christina and Jigger might be able to add on a little bit after I kind of introduce it. But if you are a CSTA Plus member, what they are now looking to do is give each chapter a little bit of funding for that CSTA Plus member in their regional chapter. So the more CSTA Plus we have in Susquehanna Valley, the more money our chapter will then get towards putting on PD and things on those lines. Tom, that's probably a good chance because I think it's one that we had to reset. So we might need to do that behind the scenes as we're moving through. So we'll get that shortly. The other thing about it is just CSTA Plus does give a lot of stuff, and I fully respect going the free route. I want to make that clear. I'm not trying to push you to jump into getting a Plus membership, but if you are looking to get involved in conferences, if you're looking to get involved with all the free items that they have, the CSTA Plus can totally pay off itself just by being involved. So I'd rather you save money than not, and also get the chapter money in the same way of going that direction. If you're not someone that's a part of going to the conferences, the Plus may or may not pay off in the same way. So that's just one thing to be mindful on. One thing that was also new with the CSTA Plus that I went through in August is they're now offering like cohorts of professional development tiers you can do through Coursera, which a university is hosting. And there were two that they offered, and I know that they literally hired like a full-time job person. That's all they're doing is developing PD for us over time. So this is just going to grow. So I've actually earned a certificate in like K-12 identity and inclusion, and it was like a 4-week or 6-week course with lots of reflections, opportunities to read, listen to some videos, and think about how am I going to bring identity into my classroom for my students. It was really thought-provoking. It gave me some Google Docs and Google Slides that I had to like put in goals and thoughts and reflections on, helped me examine my own biases, for example, and just try to humble myself on my shortcomings still. It was really worth it. The other one was a cybersecurity one. I'd like to say I finished it, but as I was telling Nicole, I'm waiting for it to officially be graded. I'm at 93%, but I have it all turned in. So I can't claim I'm done yet, but I am waiting for it to be done. And that one was really cool. It provided 4 or 5 really cool lessons on introducing just concepts of cybersecurity without it being the coding side of cybersecurity, and just trying to help get your students starting to be more mindful about information that's out in the world, how they're writing their passwords, if they're going to answer fun surveys online, to doing like a cyber threat on a house, and how would you protect your house, but how would you then try to invade that person's house to get inside. It just was really cool. I've been actually doing that with my students this year. It's just been awesome debates. So wanted to make sure you're aware of that. That does come from the CSTA Plus. I'd like to take a break from typing real quick, and there is a Padlet, and I know I emailed earlier today just kind of saying, hey, here are some questions for you. So if you don't mind, you can jump to the Padlet, and this is for anyone. You can be anonymous, or you can tag on your names, and Nicole's posting in chat. Just, where do you think our chapter can go in serving you best this year? Is there certain topics you really want to talk about? Are there certain focuses you would rather us be doing? Should we be spotlighting certain areas? If you're not sure, you can always come back and do this later. We'll check it out a couple times throughout like the week or so. But as we're trying to plan next couple months and collaborate with our other chapters in the state, this can kind of help us drive some of those main things that we're trying to do. So as a community, we're trying to get some ideas on what we're looking for. I threw in some samples in case you needed to see how to do one. And again, you can be anonymous if you don't want to put stuff in. So I'll just give like a minute or two for you to kind of think through that. If you have questions, we can chat about it. And then we'll move back to the agenda in a moment or so. Never sure about if there's enough wait time on things. So we can kind of just keep our pace going. You're welcome to go back there at another point if you would like. One of our big things that we saw from last year at the unconference was just how big the equity conversation was and how it like persisted past the time that was scheduled, which truly amazing. So one thing we wanted to start doing is starting to have like a little bit of an equity spotlight. And we have equity fellows from past years that do these couple minute talks. And what we'd like to do is try to find ones that are kind of like can be progressive throughout the year and just give a recommendation of a video. We could as a group, if we would like to, watch it together. If it's something that you think would be helpful and we can talk about it a little bit. If you'd rather as like a group, we kind of like, here's our recommendation, check it out, you can totally do that. So I didn't know if we had thoughts on that. If you want to like put in chat, if you want to say watch or save, we can totally do that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and just brag about our equity fellows in the room right now. We actually have two, which is pretty insane for Pennsylvania. Both equity fellows in PA are here. So Jigger is our new representative for this year, representing himself and essentially all of the state of PA, which is pretty awesome. And Sandy here just completed and finished it. Now I know my understanding is she's never really ever done her work, but she at least has gone through that program and is going to be a great resource for us as we move forward. So super cool deals on that front. Any votes on watching it together versus saying feel free to check it out later? I know group online group questions aren't successful sometimes.
I'm wondering if Sandy could share a little bit about what she did as an equity fellow, and maybe if Jigger could share a little bit about like what he anticipates doing, so we can have like a this is what Sandy saw and this is what Jigger is expecting. I don't know.
Yeah, perfect.
Dueling equity fellows.
I would be really interested to hear what Jigger thinks is gonna happen because it was a lot more than I had anticipated. That's for sure. Not that it wasn't an amazing thing, but it was a lot more than I had thought that it was going to be and continues to be as an alumni.
Yeah, I can add. We just had the orientation this past week, so I'm still trying to figure out what it is that I'll get out of it. Besides the whole experience. And I think the idea is just to provide, um, at least from what I understood, some of the things that we'll have access to is just resources to people who are in similar, either in similar situations as being in an area where um, they're trying to advocate for equity in CS, being able to have them available to bounce off ideas on how and what the best possible strategies are to do that. But also to just have a support system there that can help you through difficult conversations sometimes that you need to have with, whether it's the community that you're trying to engage, whether it's administrators or just other teachers who you're trying to, just help understand why it's important, why equity in general is important, but why, how it relates to computer science and why there should be students of all types and communities that really should be thinking about CS, even if they're not pursuing CS as a career, but just having some sort of exposure to CS. And so that's really what, that's, I'm hoping that that's what it becomes. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot more than that that's going to happen in terms of just learning and being able to, again, just um, you know find ways that we can really get more and more students the opportunity to just see what CS can do for them. And again, it doesn't have to be that they become programmers at the end, but it just helps. It might open up, interest for them that they never thought of before, and that's really what I anticipate it's going to be. Now, Sandy can tell me if I'm way off game, or that's what we have our first. Um, I call it, well, they call it homework, but it's the same. It's basically we have to do our own lightning talk on Friday and Saturday. So at some point, maybe I'll share that lightning talk here because I think they're going to be recording them. I don't know if they'll put ours since it's our first go around. I think the idea is us to get comfortable with giving lightning talks. So I think we're doing one as a practice. So we'll see how that goes.
So yeah, we did lightning talks the first convening. They gave us like we had to pick our own topic and we shared them in our meeting virtually. I think I did something about videos as a way to bring equity into your classroom by teaching with video. And so it's a really good way to get to know the other fellows and what their platforms are, why they became a fellow, how they were picked. I didn't get to see Jiggers. I was on, I did review applications, but I didn't, they hid his from me. And because they only give you like so many to review, I guess, and then they overlap some people, but I didn't get his. So, and I'm sure that's probably why they probably said, oh, they're both from PA, so they might know each other. But yeah, uh, I think that everything that you said is true. But they also we had really good convenings where we had opportunities to meet lots of people who are working in the field. They made connections with people who are out there working in the field of equity, some really tremendously amazing people who I was very impressed with. And then in addition to that, we also have to do a lot of other things. We write an article for The Voice. We did the flash talk that I presented on stage at conference. there was only like 4 of us that did that though. Everybody had to do them inside the expo hall, but the 4 of us were picked to do one up on the main stage. We did the summit that's in the spring. We basically had kind of group projects. We got broken into groups based on our interests, and we all did projects. I did my project on Cultivating Genius, the Goldie Muhammad book. So we read that, and our group presented that at Summit, and then we presented it 2 more times at conference. And altogether, I think I did 6 presentations at conference. um, so like it's a lot of work, but it was, like I said, one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. And you know, a lot of what Jigger said is going to happen in that process. And you make some really good friends. And Shayna is amazing, and Vanessa is one of the new employees. She was in my cohort, and they just hired her to help facilitate the fellowship. So Shayna has been there for a couple years now, and BT is amazing. He's the you guys probably know who he is. He's in charge of education, but he also oversees the Equity Fellowship. And he's a Kansas City Chiefs fan like me, so we are always buddying up. When we went to conference, we wore our hats when we had an outing together. So, but yeah, I don't know anyone has any other questions. I can answer whatever.
I know personally, I hope to just kind of hear little bits as we progress through, you know, just Jiggers kind of sharing. And if Sandy's joining us, you can always reflect on what that experience was like if you have similar deals too. It's just kind of cool to see the experience that's going to happen. So totally excited, looking forward to having such awesome representatives that are, you know, here in PA, which is pretty solid. NC Wit, I think we can kind of briefly talk about this one. There's a video from prior winner if you wanted to get a little more insight. NC Wit's National Center for Women and Information Technology. There are 3 chapters of the Aspirations Award in Pennsylvania. One oversees Pittsburgh, one over Philly, and one over Central. If you're not in Philly or Pittsburgh, wherever zip code you end up putting in, it's going to identify which one you're closest to, and that's the one that you're going to compete in. NC Wit is gives an Aspirations Award to women, genderqueer, non-binary students that have shown any interest towards computing type passions. What I really, really want to emphasize is that their goal of this award is to give students that are still debating whether or not this is something they want to go into an extra little nudge into saying, we recognize that you have a passion here. We want to encourage you to stay in it. So I even can end up, for my own personal students that I have, even students I only have for about a month now, I'm going to start talking to them about applying for this recognition, because I want to encourage them. Like, I see you're starting to learn this stuff. I see you're interested. Let's push you to do the next step. So I want to really encourage, I know a lot of us are based in Central PA, so if you know of people, please share this out to other districts, share this out, and let's try to make Central PAs really, really big. In the past couple of years, they're brand new. This is year 3 of awards for them. I know my students are represented, and I know a couple other schools are overall, but I think it's only 3 or 4 schools that are applying at this point. I think Nancy had a student last year also, if I'm correct there. So the more we can, just, it's going to grow the program. It's going to make those awards feel a little more special as they move forward too. In addition to it,
Can I ask a question about it?
yes, you can ask. Hopefully we have an answer.
Do you know, like last year's student that I had recognized was a senior. I have a student who's in 10th grade who's applying this year. Can they do it subsequent years?
Yeah.
I mean, I know they're always in it, but is it like
so that's
something that they can do? year after
Yeah,
year?
and that's actually the award structure they have. So they have essentially 6 award structures. First one I think is called Rising Star, or their certificate of distinction, which basically any student that applies will get at least that, is my understanding. Because they're like, hey, we recognize like you're showing passion towards it. And then as the student starts to show more either leadership, more passion, more something towards that application, which the hope is they grow every year. Rising Stars, the next award they can get at the regional site. And then there's regional honorable mentions and regional winners. And then there are national honorable mentions. There's 360 of those total. And then there's 40 national winners. And at that point, those are traditionally students that you see that are like, they recognize their community doesn't have computer science, and so they opened up a garage and run a coding camp over the summer for students. Like, they're doing really amazing things. And I always just tell my students, like, look, we're just going to go and we're going to see where we end up getting. Like, it's fine wherever. We're just trying to see. But absolutely have them apply year after year. I have some pretty cool student stories where they were certificate of distinctions just because their applications weren't the fanciest. They kind of wrote it kind of quick, and then they decided the following year they actually were going to like take time on it, and then they got honorable mention. And then on their junior year, they were actually, and this was during when Philly was our region, they ended up becoming a winner the 3rd year in, which was just really cool to watch them grow. And they went into mechanical engineering and computer science as a field. So the whole goal of this award is to build up the community, support them, and to keep them connected. So yes, apply more than once. Anything else with that section of the award? My general process is I usually send an email to my students because that's my first thing. I have a Google Classroom for like awards and scholarships that I add all my students to. So they can always see my postings there. And then students I can see, I try to talk to them personally about doing it as well. So I really would love to see this build. I think it's a great program, and I think it's something in PA that can help us work on that equity side of getting more women and non-binary students and genderqueer students involved in computer science. So it's not everything, but it's a great package. Yes, Sandy, 9 through 12. So you pass it off to your high school. Yeah. Now, the other thing is there is an educator award, and Central PA has not given that award out to any teachers yet. So I want to encourage everyone here that is involved in computer science education to please take a look at this award. So consider this my personal invite to you. Okay. This is for educators that are being recognized for the work of, bringing more students into the computer science field that are genderqueer, non-binary, or women. So if you're doing work in that, you're intentionally inviting them, really want to encourage, and this can apply to a range of education. So this can be those in trade schools, school counselors can be involved if they're recruiting students. So this really is eligible for any educator that's involved in some format. So I would love for you guys to also apply just personally, get recognized for the work you're doing. I think we live in a field where little recognition is given for the intentional work that has to be done. And if we can just, by you getting elevated, it lets the public know more about that mission and goal. Like, that's actually paying dividends back to your students, not just to you as well. So plus you probably get a pretty cool award. So please, please, please consider applying for that in some way or another. And again, it's for those that play pivotal roles in that high school encouragement. So Sandy, I know in the middle school, I think you might still be able to apply if you look at it, because of the sense of if you're encouraging your students to continue on in high school, those things do come into play. Okay. Now, Sandy, I don't know if you fall under Central or not. So you might lapse into Philly, but that's okay. You can still apply.
I'm a member of both you and Philly for that specific reason, because I'm kind of stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was talk of starting a Northeastern chapter. We'll see if that happens.
For the aspirations or for CSTA?
For CSTA.
Yeah, the aspirations, I'm not sure if your region would fall in Philly or Central, but as soon as you put in your zip code, it would tell you which one you're at.
All right.
So, and hopefully if you want to chat at all about Northeast and get something going, that'd be awesome to kind of see if we can figure out. It'd be good for us to have those sections for us. Any questions on NC WIT? It's a really awesome program. It has definitely changed directions of student pathways for students I've had. So I think it's a really good thing to continue to encourage. Nicole, I'm bouncing the next one off to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. I would just add, I had a chance to go to the one award ceremony for NC WIT, and it was really, I mean, it was virtual, but it was really great to see the reactions of all of the students who were there, even winning virtually. It was pretty fantastic.
Yeah, and I do know they're hopeful that they're going to be able to host at Millersville this year as an initial plan, like a real
Fingers
banquet.
crossed.
Yeah.
So I included this on here, and I always call it kind of like a shameless plug because my IU is kind of behind it, but we're partnering with Harrisburg University to host in November a help desk forum, and it's for students. Originally kind of targeted at the idea of the student help desk that you might have at your districts if you kind of have like a student support team that's helping to run things, but it doesn't have to necessarily be that student run help desk. It could be students who are looking at going into the IT field after high school, or maybe just toying around with the idea. And the idea is we just kind of bring in a whole bunch of students who are either actively in student help desk or looking at going into the IT field and have the opportunity to just experience a variety of things. So there'll be a keynote speaker. We're still working on who that's going to be. We're gonna keep everything short, 30-minute presentations. They're gonna have time to look at actual interview questions that we're soliciting from area and community businesses and kind of work through what are best answers to those questions. It's gonna be held hybridly. So there's a variety of options for attendance. You can come all the way out to Little New Oxford, Pennsylvania, and at the edge of Adams County and York County, or you can go up to Harrisburg University and attend in person. Both of those are options, or you can attend entirely virtually. So we're going to do all of our presentations hybridly so that you can either be there in person if you choose one or the other, or you can go onto Zoom and hopefully log in and see the presentation. So even if you're not in our region, we're trying to make sure it's accessible to everyone. The website out here is going to give you tons of resources for it if you're interested. It's on November 18th. So if you were looking for that date, I probably should just put that in here because that would probably be pretty helpful. And the registration for yourself and your students is open. I think we're limiting it to 10 students, which I know can be hard, but we're actually hoping to run it twice this year, or at the very least yearly. So if this is something that you are interested in, and maybe you're like, oh, I can't bring my whole class of 20 or 25 or all my classes, like maybe I'll just bring my 10 superstars, or whoever that you're deciding to do that with, or maybe I'll bring certain ones and some will log on online because there's no limit on the virtual registration. So I'm trying to think, we're going to have breakouts, and it really is up to all of our businesses, higher ed. We're soliciting anybody who wants to do a presentation. We're also encouraging, like, if you have a group, so you're talking about your tornado tech team, Brian, if you wanted to do a presentation about how you started that team or how you support that team, or if the students want to do a presentation about how their tech team works and what their best practice are, that's also an option. So the other piece is that we're also looking for proposals. So if you know somebody who maybe is really great that you brought into your classroom who you think would like to present at either Harrisburg University or out in New Oxford, PA, those are open as well for those proposals, and we'd love to have them if it's just for one 30-minute proposal presentation, or if it's for multiple. We would also love that as well. If you know somebody in the community that you think might be interested in coming to present at either location, sharing the flyer with them to let them know that this opportunity is available is there. It's not necessarily a CS niche. We're trying to keep it broad with the IT, but it's going to be all day, Nancy. So I think it starts at 8. And I think we have it ending at 2 or 2:30, which I can go out to the website here and give you everything officially, which should be out here. It may not be posted yet. I know we have it somewhere. I'm pretty sure it's like 8 to 2. Maybe it's on our flyer. There we go, 8 to 2:45. So the flyer has a little more of the details. If you don't know where the intermediate unit is or the Harrisburg University are, some of that information's in there.
Teachers tag along with the kids.
Oh, absolutely.
There'd be a way
Absolutely.
to get out of school that day and do a field trip for the tech team.
Yes. Yes, it would be a field trip for everyone. Yes, lunch is going to be provided. Nancy, New Paths is actually providing the lunch. So there will be lunch at both locations if you're coming in person. Again, if it's we recognize that it can be a situation to get subs and or get out of the building. So if that's also an issue, virtual is an option as well. For some folks, they like to bring 2 teachers, or they'll have one. I've talked to at least one teacher who's looking at having kind of a teacher in the classroom who's going to do online with a group of kids, and they're bringing 10 kids face to face to actually do the experience. But yeah, registration's open for you and your students. This is register your students. It's really your group, whatever your group might be. And then if you know any businesses or organizations that would be interested in presenting, that's kind of the other piece. We're getting lots of students registrations, but we want to make sure that we have some really great presentations. So if you know someone who's come in and spoken with you before, or if you know somebody who really is a fantastic presenter and great with kids, we'd love to have them too. Are there any questions? I'm really excited. We held one in the spring of last year virtually, and we did the whole thing in Zoom. And kind of did the breakout rooms and rearranged and put everybody wherever they needed to be. And the feedback we got from students at the time was just fantastic. And we had a lot of student presenters. So if you know you've got a student who might be willing to speak to what the process is, we would love student presenters. And the students really like it too, because then they're able to see, oh, this is what this school district is doing. There's a little bit of like comparing your cards and seeing, oh, is that how they're running it? How we're running it? This is the process we use for this. This is the process they use. There was a lot of like comparing notes. So I'm really excited to have it in person, because the students will actually be able to do a little more networking than they can do in Zoom, like we did last spring. But if you have questions, feel free to email me. I think everything is on this website if you go hunting for these resources that I linked right in here, along with the flyers and the request for presentations.
All right. And Nicole, definitely not a shameless plug. You didn't ask for money, so it's just a plug.
It is free. It's free.
There you
And
go.
if the more successful it is, the more likely we are to run possibly another one in the spring. So that's kind of the goal, is to potentially run to a year if possible.
Yeah, and like I'm here thinking, I was like, oh, that's a pretty good like career indicator for your students for that need it for graduation and stuff. Good career awareness type deals. So definitely can serve a lot of areas just outside of just the IT as well, towards what schools need to be doing in a day. So super cool. Certification updates, it's all there. So they do have another cohort closing on the 30th of September. So if you're not in a cohort yet to pass praxis or get ready for it, that is there. If you're not sure if you need a certification, that flow chart is there as well. I'm not really comfortable doing the whole flowchart conversation, because A, if I say something wrong, then you come yelling at me and I don't want that. And B, every time I ask questions, the answer is usually, well, it's on the flowchart, so try to just do your best to follow through as you go through. So you can kind of see if you need the cert or not. But the short answer is basically, if you have a certain PA teaching license and you're continuing to teach the course and not changing the curriculum, and you're not changing your district, you can continue to teach that course for under a temporary licensure. Should you want to change the course in any capacity, add new courses, I think actually by December 31st of this year, you're no longer allowed to be teaching computer science should you be making any changes. So over time, I think every district will be kind of forced to get a certification in their building, because your courses will need curriculum updates at some point, even if you try to keep the same ones. It's just a matter of when and how long we can hold off. So hopefully that kind of helps clarify. If your districts need that information, that's a link that I know my building principal used really help to try to gauge if we needed to get a second person to get that cert or not at the moment. So want to make sure you have that. And then I did just get confirmation for those that are still looking. They are looking to offer the tutoring setup that they did last year, where they have some educators that that passed the praxis already, are going to get paid through Patent to tutor anyone that's asking for any one-on-one time This is for those that are in the cohorts though. So if you're already taking that We Teach course and you're like, I still don't get recursion, you can sign up for a tutor to kind of meet with you virtually on your own schedule, and run through recursion examples or whatever else you might need to do. Okay, free for you, which is a pretty cool thing the state is supporting us in. Speaking of that, looking to the future. Oh, Brian, I love recursion. I always talk about pancakes. I feel like you and I need to chat, but yeah, recursion I think is so much fun. Whether other people agree with me is a different story, and you're allowed to have your own opinion for the record. As far as future meetings, we have some pretty cool plans we're trying to do. So first off, we saw the unconference reception was really well. We want to continue doing that. Sandy here, we're kind of asking if things line up schedule wise to actually keynote more on the equity, and move forward on that. And we want to really just so Tom, the best example of recursion is if you go to Google, type recursion in, and you'll see it says, did you know, or did you mean recursion? And you can keep clicking that. And that literally is recursion. So that's your lesson for the day. We want to keep the unconference going. We'd like to make it bigger and better and move forward and learn from some of the things we did from the first time. In addition to it, we are hoping to bring fidgets back in potentially January. We're bringing Lucas back, but not doing the intro stuff, really actually getting the grind of where curricularly you can embed fidgets into different sections. They did just release Scratch support in the fidget. So yeah, I'm really hopeful because we can actually really talk about even how fidgets could be used in the elementary schools. And we know in our like central PA region, we have a couple IUs that have lending libraries with fidgets now. So I hope this is going to be really relevant for our chapters as we go through. We're also trying to coordinate with the other CSTA chapters. Yeah, we'll also go back to that in a second, Brian. We're trying to coordinate with the other CSTA chapters to do some little like slightly bigger meetups without it being like overhauling kind of deal. So if Pittsburgh, Longwood, and Philly have some events that they're like, it's virtual, we'd like to open this up to everyone, then all the chapters will be advertising for that and kind of making that some of their meetings as well. Kind of like sharing the work, kind of also like really supporting if we're bringing a guest person, like when Lucas comes to talk, it would be much cooler to have 30 people there than to have 4 people show up. So we want to make sure we're valuing time when we're bringing in speakers to talk to us as well. Brian, that is definitely a conversation point. We have breached the conversation of doing some physical meetups here and there. We always kind of land back on is it something people would show up to? And, you know, I think a little bit of it's just the concern of what if we do something and we get 3 people to show up, and I mean, maybe we get 3 people to show up and that's what it is. But we're definitely open for the conversation towards that. And if you have ideas or thoughts, we'd love to kind of move forward and bounce ideas with you too. So definitely, I don't want to say it's a yes, but I think the hope is to do some from time to time. Where it kind of gets hard is like virtual usually is a little more accessible for some people. Traveling restrictions, depending where we're going in central PA, can be a drive for some. So it is just hard. Yeah, Zoom is really good for that convenience. But there are times where I think, you know, if we're doing a fidget session, maybe we have another follow-up, having some physical time with actual fidgets could be really helpful. And maybe one of our IUs with the lending library could host us in some capacity. I'm brainstorming right on the spot, so I'm not committing any IUs or anything, but that I could see where some physical needs would be helpful too. So plus it'd be good to see everyone. All right. Let's see. So that's kind of our future goals. We are outside of that, still working on planning months. We're going to use your feedback and inputs to try to drive a lot of what we do. Standing resources, the first 3 links are things we've already have talked about before. Physical computing day would be an amazing day. That'd be fun. I know some people that are really good with Raspberry Pis. Jigger.
I was gonna say me too.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll see if we can figure out something there. Yeah. The last one though, in standing resources D, I just threw in there. If you did not or not a part of like Patton's like CS community email chains where they get the s'mores and stuff. They finally, I kind of known about this for a month, so I'm saying finally, but that's not like respectful of them. They've been working on this really hard. There's a new CS and PA social site to connect all educators in computer science. I know I saw Nancy's name there already, and Jigger's name, and Brian's name there. Tom, I might have even seen your name if I remember. And it's basically a pretty cool like social media platform where, hey, why is my face on it? Oh, it's probably because it's like my invite code or something. Anyways, there are different topics, so you can join what bands you want. So I joined the 9 through 12 band. There are then topics you can pick, like on professional development. You can pick topics that you want to have followed. People can post articles. So the real hope is that over time, this will grow and become a really good source. And I could really see it as where CSTA actually does some of their operating stuff, because it's a great place to publicly try to get everyone involved. Right now, my goal is anyone that's joining, I want to be like, are you a part of CSTA? If not, get a part of this community as well. Just to find whatever chapter is right for you, but let's get everyone connected as we move forward. So if you haven't joined, please do. So keep that going. So yeah, let's leave it up to this. Where are we at in our lives? So just kind of thinking about, what's going on with you. Are you teaching any new classes? Are you trying to make some changes in schools? Anything along those lines that you'd like to kind of share? We'd love to hear from you at this point.
I'd like to share to the group that I applied and was accepted to serve on CSTA's Computer Honor Society Committee at large for the year. And so the weekend of October 14th, I'm going out to Oregon for their volunteer summit to, not quite sure what it's all about, but those that are volunteering on some of their committees. And so I'll be serving on the Honor Society committee. So I'll have, I guess, something to report back when we have our next meeting, because I do have an honor society. We have our informational meeting tomorrow. We'll have inductions in October, and working on some of our plans for this upcoming year, service projects and things like that. So PA is being represented once again at the CSTA level.
That's awesome. I know from Longwood, Stephanie Shrake was served on that board at some point in the beginning too. So having a couple people in there that kind of know more about it, because that is a question I've been seeing more and more about, is like, what are the projects that your students need to do to like get a check mark for saying, yes, you did community service related to computer science. So as you start to define those things, that would be super awesome for us to get out to our membership, try to grow those societies if people are interested in doing that in their schools. Cool. Congrats.
I did propose an artificial intelligence and machine learning course for next school year. I submitted it to guidance just for them to poke holes in it, and hope to submit it for approval for the course selection guide for next year.
Speaking of curricular changes, I'm trying to overhaul everything we do. It's kind of like a potential like 2-year plan, not like an immediate plan. But the long story short is, like, I came into the school and there were already course titles and curriculums, but none of the curriculums, like, people could really tell me what they were doing. So it ends up being me just kind of like making stuff up. Good courses, but like it wasn't really kind of set in stone with a good progression. And as I've like been looking at my data more and more, like, I think we're serving some groups of students really, really well, but I'm seeing certain student subsets not really taking courses. So the hope is to open even more expandability in courses. So looking like I did the CMU CS Academy, Christina led that this summer. And like, I'm looking at, could this be a course that more students would be interested in? We don't offer CSP, so are we looking to maybe offer a CSP course in some capacity? we like really just looking at where can we try to make things more equitable. So it's a slow pace, but trying to go that way. The other big thing that I'm a big proponent on is I don't want any of my courses to ever have prereqs that require other CS that limits and bottlenecks students to the point where they can't take something. So like part of the process is like the CMU CS Academy, maybe if they take that can let them jump into computer science A without the math prereq of algebra 2, or they can wait until they have the algebra 2 prereq instead. So trying to put in prereq opportunities in all that is stuff I still need to work through. It's a very big undertaking to like mind boggle, but that's where I'm at. So if anyone ever has suggestions or thoughts, or you're like, these are kind of where I'm at, I would love to kind of hear that too. But yeah, Nancy, I see you're talking about the no prereq. So that's one of my big things. I'm also like fully recognize like you need prereqs sometimes because that will allow your course to go further in the content that you're hoping to go into. So like you don't want to always have to start over in every single class because then you can't really accomplish much. So that's also a big thing that I would like. Brian, our school accepted CS courses. Students can choose it to count as math or science 1 credit. So they can pick. So that was not something that was consulted on me. They just took what the law change was and just took it kind of verbatim. So yes, so CSP has an algebra 1 prereq, which is why I was looking at potentially putting that in and either having it be have CMU CS Academy be, you can just be in algebra. You have to, if you're in high school for us, you're in algebra 1A at a minimum. So basically saying you're in 9th grade, you can take CMU CS Academy. So every student has a course no matter what. And then trying to get CSP at algebra 1 was the plan. CSA was algebra 2, or you already took either CMU Academy or CSP. I'm still working out the pathway there. Having some other Java classes that they could take the feed into it too, but definitely trying to get a lot of entry points. My flow chart is ridiculously stupid to look at right now. Like there's errors everywhere, but that's a good thing. So I'll stop talking. You kind of heard my rant. I do need a cybersecurity course. I have that in the flow chart, but I don't know how to connect it, and I don't know anything about cybersecurity. So I have work to do. But yeah, thanks,
Just
Christina.
go to cyber.org. You don't need to know nothing.
I have an account with them. I have a hard time teaching standard packaged courses. Like I just can't. Like even CSA's curriculum I wrote with questions I made.
You can make it your own. I do.
Okay.
It's
Might be following up with you, Brian. So
It might be coming soon at your IUs too. We'll see.
okay, that's good.
We're waiting for more information.
What, cyber.org? What exactly? Something with cybersecurity, or cyber.org is coming to IUs?
I would think more cybersecurity and then
Good.
based on
That's
our
good to hear.
training.
That's good to hear.
Anyone else have anything going on? Even at the IU level? Anything cool, different?
It was on my mind because the cybersecurity training from cyber.org was really great. So
I just
I'm
wanted to
crossing my fingers.
I use the virtual Linux machine from them too. So
just wanted to say to Jeffrey, you may see some students flying drones around your school. Students with hearing impairments and students who are deaf. We were building them the other day, so I'm curious how that goes.
Yeah, I'm privy to the tech requests. So I know when Janice Beitzel's putting in requests to get all the software to connect the computers to the drones and stuff already. I'm super excited. I'm really thrilled that the IU13's hearing program, deaf and hard of hearing program is working through the coding stuff, and they've been doing awesome stuff for the past couple of years that I've seen. So yeah, super excited to see that in the building. Well, hopefully the drone's out of the building, but you know what I mean. Cool. Anything else from anyone on that side? Okay, a little closing homework. I'm a goal-oriented person, so I kind of wanted to close on another Padlet, so I opened and closed the same way today. But I would love if you would be willing to try to set yourself a goal. So like you'll see if you open it up, you'll see mine in there. I attached my name to it, but the mine is really focusing on trying to overhaul everything that I'm doing on my coursework. And the thinking behind this is if we have goals and we're aware of it, not only can we be mindful of our own selves as we move forward, but if I see Nancy put in a goal here and I'm like, oh, I'm going to check in on Nancy here, like I can even be like, hey, how's this goal going for you, and try to be a little more real is kind of the hope. So if you'd love to participate, would love to see your goals at some point. You can do it now or later. Totally up to you on that front as well. But we really appreciate your time. We're really hoping to drive this. I know today's was a little more just lots of raw information, and I do apologize for that. We're hoping to start driving in stuff as we move forward. Our next chapter meeting, we try to do one a month. We're going to not technically have one in October and hold it on November 1st, just to be respectful. Diwali is like the last week of the full week of October, where we normally would do a chapter meeting. And we want to be respectful of those that wouldn't be able to be a part of our meeting at that time. So we're just moving it to the 1st because it's right after Halloween, so we can be loaded up on sugar and totally do some cool stuff. So hopefully you can kind of put that in the books. We're looking at 7:30. We are going to try to rotate our days when we possibly can as well, so not always hitting Tuesdays or things on those lines, because we know people have different times. We love those that came today. That's great, but there's others out there, so we're going to try to see if we can hit you in different spots as we move forward too. So yeah, if there's anything else, fully welcome. We can hang out, but that's what we got for you today.